Hi everyone, welcome back to Faith and Flour. This is Robin and I'm just having a little fun with the intro this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys have been having an amazing week, that you are having fun with all of the Christmas preparations. I know I am. This week I've got several things going on for you. First of all, I wanted to give you a little glimpse at how Austin's doing. Many of you have asked and he's doing great. He's loving his big backyard. He takes his job as Chief Security Officer very seriously and enjoys his time in the backyard, relaxing and having a good time. Later in the video, I've got some cooking, some holiday baking, and a pantry restock with some grocery hauls. So if you need a little homemaking inspiration and motivation, then this video's for you. We love to grill any time of year, and we just received from London Sunshine their ceramic Kamado charcoal barbecue smoker, which we have had so much fun experimenting with. In the past, we've always had a gas grill, and it's been really fun to give charcoal grilling a try. So far, we have made steaks, chicken, and most recently, this pork roast, which was amazing. We were interested in the unique egg shape, which ensures good heat circulation inside the grill so that the food can be evenly cooked and the ceramic retains the moisture of the food. Also, it is just so versatile. You can use it for grilling, searing, even baking, and of course smoking, and we do plan to use it all year round. If you or someone you know is interested in a Kamado grill, I have a link and a 10% discount code down in the description box, so make sure you check out London Sunshine. This roast turned out so delicious. It was smoky, yet so tender and juicy on the inside, better than any I've had at any restaurant, and I'm from North Carolina where pork barbecue reigns. And now that we live in Texas, we'll definitely have to try a beef brisket next time. We enjoyed our pulled pork alongside some roasted vegetables and homemade sauerkraut. In our previous home, we had a large pantry which we used for some long-term food storage. We called it our Prepper Pantry, and we usually had anywhere from 1 to 3 months food supply. Before we moved, we used up most of those items so that we didn't have excess to move to our new home. And now that we're here and have established some extra storage for those items, I have been making a conscious effort to rebuild our Prepper Pantry. Where we live now, the stores that I shop the most are H-E-B, which is our local grocery store, Trader Joe's, and Aldi. I look for canned and jarred food, also packaged food like pasta that has a long shelf life, and I try to buy them when they're on sale so that I can get that sale price and stock up my pantry with those items. In order to stay within our grocery budget, I just add a few items each week. This one was a little bit larger than usual. This was from our local grocery store, and there were quite a few things that I normally like to store on sale. And at Trader Joe's, there are a few things I always pick up a few extras of. I really like their skipjack tuna, condiments like their organic mayonnaise, and we use a lot of coconut milk, so I like to make sure I have lots of that stored, and my favorite one is from Trader Joe's. I also like to pick up some gluten-free baking mixes that Trader Joe offers. They are really nice quality, they taste great, and they're usually a pretty good price, so I like to have a few of those. They're an excellent item that stores for a long time in our Prepper Pantry. In order to make this kind of storage really work so that you don't have food waste is to make sure that you buy things that your family is going to use and then you actually use them. And I like to make sure that I'm keeping these items in rotation, always making sure to use things by their best by date if possible. I find that that's easiest if I find those dates when I get home from the store, grab my Sharpie and write it on the top of the can so it's clearly visible. And that way I'm always using the oldest items first, and I'm making sure that everything is at its best quality when we eat it. Now, when it comes to canned foods and quite a lot of boxed items, that best by date doesn't mean that it's expired, but it does mean that the food is at its best quality before then. So we do try to use it before then. And if we don't, I just make a note to myself to use it sometime in the near future. Lots of times you can keep things several years past that date. Keeping a 1 to 3 month food supply has really benefited our family. I discovered this early on when we lived in North Carolina and we had several weather emergencies like hurricanes or ice storms, which made it impossible for us to get to the store, or we had power losses. And so I learned in those times that it was best to have at least several weeks food supply on hand so that we were prepared in case of an emergency. It saves us money too, because I can buy these items when they are on sale. And therefore, when I run out, or if there is an emergency and I think I need to stock up, I don't have to go and pay the current price. It's a great idea to do this no matter where you live, but if you have frequent weather emergencies where you live, you know what it's like right before whatever happens. When you know that a hurricane is coming, for instance, usually the store shelves are cleared very quickly. There is a lot of rush at the grocery store for people to stock up on items, and you can completely avoid that situation. You can sit back at home because you're fully prepared and let other people who aren't get whatever it is that they need. There are many benefits to keeping your house stocked in this way, and one of them is that in case of an emergency, you're in a position to help out your neighbors and others around you who might not be prepared. I make a special effort to keep a lot of gluten-free items on hand because I learned during the pandemic that those were the hardest things to come by. And while we did fine, I would just like to have those things on hand and not feel that sense of urgency when they're not available. Do you have a prepper pantry, or have you thought about creating one in your home? Let me know down in the comments, and also share any tips or strategies that you have that have made that successful for your family. Recently, when I shopped at Aldi, I realized that they had a lot of their canned items at really great prices, so I grabbed several of those to add to our prepper pantry. I think dried beans are even more economical and they will last a very long time, but having the canned ones on hand is super convenient, so I like to keep plenty of those in there. Also, I found their maple syrup, which stores really well, and also I like getting their avocado oil. That's a much better price than what I get at our local grocery store. However, I don't go overboard with storing a lot of oils. They generally don't have a really long shelf life, so I just keep what I know we can use in a reasonable period of time. Here are some of the other things that I'm adding to our prepper pantry. Crackers and things like that keep for a long time. You can eat them with peanut butter or whatever if there's a power outage. I also like to get these dark chocolate chips, both the Toll House ones and the Enjoy Life ones, because they don't have any soy, and sometimes when they're on special I'll grab a couple extra of those and they will keep for a while. Plus, of course, canned fruit. And I have been buying them in the large cans lately. They're a little bit more economical, so I like to go for that size. And I like to keep a lot of canned tomatoes on hand as well for making sauces. Canned soups are great to keep in your prepper pantry. Our family doesn't eat that much canned soup, but tomato soup is something that Patrick and I really enjoy, and so we can make that for a quick and easy weekday lunch. Jams and jellies keep for a very long time. In fact, I would argue well beyond the best by date. So I like to stock up on those whenever they're on sale too. And this Bon Maman one is our favorite. I especially love these blackberry preserves. Peanut butter is amazing to keep in your prepper pantry. It's a great source of protein and you can eat it when you don't have power to cook with. I also picked up some tahini. It's not something that we use a lot of, so I won't keep a lot of it on hand. Ever since the pandemic, I've been using our curbside service at our local grocery store more and more. I can go online, pick out everything, and then just go and pick it up, and they don't even charge an extra fee. But the downside is that since I'm not there to pick our own groceries, this can happen. So I had 3 cans that were pretty severely dented, but they do have an excellent return policy, so I am going to take these back. And they gave me a soup that I didn't ask for. I wanted tomato, and they gave me cream of mushroom. So that happens, but you can't beat the convenience and also the savings, because when I order online, I can check all the prices ahead of time and do a little bit of price searching amongst the stores that I like to use. And I can make sure I see all of the sales, and I'm not tempted by all the other items at the grocery store, so I don't come home with extras. Now I'll give you an idea of what I have stored up so far. So this is a closet that we have that's a little bit separate from our kitchen, where we recently put shelves in for this purpose. And I have things like paper goods, plastic bags on the top shelf. I've got flours, both bread flour and all-purpose. I'm always careful not to exceed the flour's expiration date, and I like to store it in these plastic containers so that if there's a weevil outbreak or anything like that, it won't compromise the rest of my pantry. As I said, I like to keep a lot of gluten-free items on hand because they can be really difficult to find if there is any kind of food shortage. In addition to flour, sugars were also really hard to come by during the pandemic. We had a real shortage of that in the area where I live. So I make sure that I have plenty on hand now, and these will last for probably at least 3 to 4 months. We also have a pretty good stock of drink mixes for teas and hot cocoa that we like, and also that candy cane tea from Trader Joe's is only here during the winter time, so we got plenty of that to keep on hand for the rest of the winter. Rice, both brown and jasmine, are what we really like, so I make sure to keep lots of that on hand. I will probably add to that, and I do keep them in airtight containers along with dried beans. I have more in the pantry that's in our kitchen, but I've got a little bit of back stock in here, and I will probably add to this later as well. Having plenty of salt on hand is a really great idea too. It lasts for a very long time, and it's really essential to cooking, and you're really gonna miss it if you don't have it in an emergency. Jarred items, just like canned items, are great to keep in your prepper pantry. They last a very long time, and so we keep all of our favorite condiments, jams, pizza and pasta sauces in here. I mark the dates on the top, and we make sure that we rotate through them. These are all things that we use regularly, and as you can see, I have them in plastic bins to keep them stable on the wire shelves. We also keep things like dried fruits, and as I showed you before, some baking goods like chocolate chips. I also like to keep our back stock of snack type items in our prepper pantry. They are not essential and definitely not a necessary part of your prepper pantry, but they definitely make life a little bit easier if you have to go through some sort of weather emergency and you're stuck at home for a long period of time. Along with the gluten-free baking mixes, I also like to keep some extra gluten-free instant oatmeal. That's a really easy breakfast to make, and all I need is some boiling water. These can racks that I found on Amazon, and I'll have them in my Amazon store, you can find the link for that in the description box, help me keep all of these items organized. And so with all that you see here in our extended pantry, plus the small pantry we have in our kitchen, plus we have a refrigerator and freezer both in the kitchen and the garage, we have plenty of food for well over a month at this point in time. Many of you have asked recently for some of our family's favorite Christmas treats, and so I have a recipe for you today. This is a recipe from Switzerland called Basler Brunsli, which was a favorite of Patrick's growing up and has been a favorite of our families. Our kids love it, so do we, and I think you will too. This is a flourless recipe, so they're gluten-free. I'll put the full recipe down in the description box so that you can copy, cut, and paste. Start with 2 cups of ground almonds. I prefer to process whole almonds in my food processor as opposed to buying an almond meal. I find that that's a little too finely ground for my taste, so this way I can control that, and I like it fine but sort of like coarse crumbs. Measure out just 1.5 cups of the almonds to start. Reserve the rest for later. Recipe calls for 1 cup of grated semi-sweet chocolate. Instead of that, I use dark chocolate chips and I just chop them up very fine in the food processor. Combine the chocolate along with 1¼ cups of granulated sugar. You'll also need a teaspoon of cinnamon and ½ teaspoon of ground cloves. I don't have ground cloves on hand, so I just took some whole cloves and grind them very finely in my coffee grinder. I often do that with spices, and as you can see, there's probably a little bit of coffee left over in there, but who's to know? And the final ingredient is 2 egg whites lightly beaten. I had a little trouble separating this second egg. I dropped some yolk in there, but instead of throwing it all out, there is an easy fix. My mom taught me that if you use the eggshell to scoop out the yolk, you can get all of it out very easily and salvage your egg whites. Lightly whisk the egg whites and then add them to the rest of your ingredients. I like to use my stand mixer to combine all of the ingredients, but with this you could easily just stir by hand. It can take several minutes for the dough to sort of form, for everything to come together, so be patient. But if the mixture seems a little bit too dry, you can add 1 teaspoon of water at a time. If the mixture seems a little too sticky or wet, you can use some of the reserved ground almonds and add just a little bit at a time until you reach the right consistency. Sprinkle a little bit of sugar on your work surface. I like to work on top of a piece of parchment paper for easier cleanup. Then pour the dough out and sort of lightly knead it and press it to about 1/4 inch thickness. This dough is pretty messy, so get all of the things that you need gathered together beforehand to avoid having to stop and wash your hands every few minutes. In addition to some Christmas cookie cutters and a baking sheet, you'll need a little bowl of sugar, and that is to dip the cookie cutters into before you cut out the shapes. If you don't have a very good high quality non-stick baking sheet, like this one from Caraway, then I would suggest using some either non-stick tinfoil or tinfoil that has been prepared with some oil or butter. Also, this dough is quite delicate, so I like to use a little spatula to transfer the cutout to the cookie sheet. My cookie cutters are probably almost twice the size of the ones that Patrick's mother used to make, so if you have smaller ones, it might be better for this recipe. Large ones work, but you'll need to increase the baking time a bit too. It also works really well to put the dough between two pieces of parchment paper and use a rolling pin to achieve that 1/4 inch thickness. And then you don't have to worry about such messy hands. Allow them to stand at room temperature for about 2 hours, and then bake the cookies at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The original recipe for small cookies is 15 minutes, and for my larger cookies, I kept them in for about 25, which worked out really well. This cookie recipe is made with simple ingredients and is so easy to make. Plus, our kitchen smelled absolutely amazing and they taste even better. So if you give them a try, let me know down in the comment section, and I hope that it's a recipe that you'll add to your Christmas favorites. Thank you for spending your time with me here today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I love hearing from you. Next Sunday is Christmas, so I won't be here, but I'll be back the following week. And until then, I want to wish each of you a very Merry Christmas from our family to yours.